about DeSantis, but that gas is here in Arcadia.
Arcadia.
I don't know about the rest of y'all, but it's here in Arcadia. So y'all know who we vote for. I don't know about the rest of them. I'm voting for DeSantis. And I'm a Democrat. So y'all can call it what the fool call it.
We got children out
Okay,
here.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Hurricane Ian and the recovery efforts down in Florida, as the mainstream liberal media is putting out a whole lot of propaganda to try to attack Governor Ron DeSantis, trying to say that he's not doing a good job. Now, before Hurricane Ian came, the criticism of Ron DeSantis was that in the past, he had voted against Hurricane Sandy relief. Although Ron DeSantis said that he supported relief for Hurricane Sandy, however, he said that the bill for the relief was too much in regards to the pork barrel spending that he said didn't really have anything to do with the disaster. They also tried to get Ron DeSantis for his lack of belief in climate change, right? That's what the mainstream liberal media says. Even though Ron DeSantis has been spending money to prepare the state for natural disasters like Hurricane Ian that hit the state. But that doesn't stop the mainstream liberal media from pushing their narrative, from trying to take advantage of a disaster where people lost their homes, they lost their lives. No. Mainstream liberal media doesn't care. They have an agenda to push, which is that Ron DeSantis is a horrible governor. Same thing they did with COVID. Okay, they said that Ron DeSantis was responsible for every single death that Florida experienced from COVID. Again, they're kind of doing the same thing here with Hurricane Ian. It's quite disgusting. They're even going as far as to push this idea that Ron DeSantis not only is not helping, but he's actually getting in the way of the recovery efforts because he wants to get photo ops at the restoration sites instead of letting the people work. Or at the very least, that is the narrative that's being pushed from the mainstream liberal media now about Ron DeSantis and his recovery efforts in Florida. Take a look.
If we hit it with the crop, we're done.
Leslie Nelson and her husband Justin haven't stopped their relief effort and don't plan to. Nelson is the assistant principal at West Elementary School. She loves her community and her students, and it shows.
Last night, one of our last runs, I felt the best because we had heard that one of our families in need that lost their home, nobody could get in contact with them, and I actually saw one of them, and I squeezed the little boy, and I was so excited. He was like, "Miss Nelson." So that was a really great feeling yesterday.
I don't give a flying
no.
But frustration mounted as civilians were told to pause their relief operations for several hours as Governor Ron DeSantis toured the area.
Our hands are tied.
I'm not trying to be rude, but we've been doing this very thing one street over, and the only reason we're not over there
is because the governor's.
That's right.
I understand.
So why does that have to stop right now? It's the same thing we've been doing before anybody was here.
All right, we're going to head back
Governor,
over
can I ask you one question?
I'll get to you. I'll get to you. All right, we're still good.
Frustrated that they had to shut down operations because you're here. Can you just, what is your message to them? They had to pause operations, Governor, while you came in. Can you, I'm with ABC Action News. I just want you to,
that's great.
Your message is,
anyone to pause anything. I think that
folks were stopped from going in back and forth. We have it on video. They're super frustrated because you came into town.
Let's go. That's not by my
Go on this side.
questions.
Governor, so the Democrats and the media are saying that there's been some photo ops where resources have been stopped when you're walking. Can you correct the record on that?
Yeah, it's a categorical lie, and the sheriff and the county said it's a lie. I don't know why we're worried about these silly issues when we've got people to help, okay? I was the first one to show up in DeSoto and help those people. They were appreciative that we were there. We weren't stopping anything. They had distributed a bunch of water and food and whatnot. There was nobody even in line at the time. So it's a total lie, and it's just dumb. But I don't have time for that. What I want to do is continue figuring out doing what we can do to help these efforts here on the ground. And I think today's announcements are really fantastic, and it'll make a very big difference for a lot of these people.
Yeah, so I want you guys to imagine, if Ron DeSantis decided, you know what, I'm never going to come out, I'm just going to stay in my office while people are out here trying to rebuild their lives from this disaster, what do you think the Democrats and the mainstream liberal media will be saying? Right? Do you think that they would be okay with that? Or do you think they would say, well, why is Ron DeSantis not out helping people? Why is he not out doing hurricane relief efforts, showing that he cares about the citizens of his state? He must not care about the citizens of his state. That's exactly what they'd be saying. So the guy goes out and he's actually touring the damage, okay, seeing what damage has been done so that they can facilitate and allocate resources appropriately. So as governor, he understands what's going on. And they're criticizing the guy for it because a couple people said, you know, we can't work the way we want to work because Ron DeSantis' security team is closing off certain areas where we've been working. Now, again, you know, that is a not ideal situation for them. But at the same time, is it really worth saying that the governor is keeping people from recovering, or he's stopping recovery efforts so that he can get a photo op? Because I don't think that's what he's doing. And don't get me wrong, Ron DeSantis is a very politically savvy guy. He's probably the most politically savvy politician that we have. Okay, he knows how to play the political game, right? Evidenced by what he did with sending migrants to Martha's Vineyard. I'll be the first person to tell you that was a political stunt. However, it was genius, right? It was a genius political stunt. It was necessary. This, however, is not a political stunt. We have a real disaster on our hands here. And this guy, the governor, is doing what governors are supposed to do, which is to be out there on the front lines and figuring out how do we get things back to normal as fast as possible, right? That is what he's doing. But again, Democrats are criticizing this, okay? They're saying he's there to just shoot a photo op. And Ron DeSantis obviously had to set a reporter straight. That's not the only reporter that he had to set straight. He had to set straight a CNN reporter just a few days ago as well in regards to Lee County's response to Hurricane Ian. Take a look.
Do you stand behind Lee County's decision to not have that mandatory evacuation until the day before the storm?
Well, where was your industry station when the storm hit? Were you guys in Lee County? No, you were in Tampa. So that's, they were following the weather track, and they had to make decisions based on that. But, 72 hours, they weren't even in the cone. 48 hours, they were on the periphery. So you got to make the decisions the best you can. I will say, they delivered the message to people. They had shelters open. Everybody had adequate opportunity to at least get to a shelter within the county. But, a lot of the residents did not want to do that. I think probably for various reasons. Some people just don't want to leave their home, period. They're island people, whatever. But I think part of it was so much attention was paid to Tampa that I think a lot of them probably thought that they wouldn't get the worst of it. So, but they did. And I think it's easy to second guess them, but they were ready for the whole time and made that call when there was justifiable to do so.
Some of their neighboring counties, though, did have mandatory evacuations before Tuesday.
Well, right. But our neighboring, if you look at Tuesday morning, they had moved the track down. Models started showing it going to Sarasota, so so they did that. I was in Sarasota that day with them when they were expanding some of their evacuations. Charlotte, I think, did the same thing either Monday night or Tuesday morning. But don't forget Sunday, 11 a.m. advisory, it was going to go to Taylor County in North Florida. And so, at some point you got to look to see kind of where this thing is going. So, I think that it's easy to say in hindsight, we had most of our supply station in the Tampa Bay area. As that track moved, we shifted our response further south as well. Now, we said there would be impacts for sure. And even when it was going to hit North Florida, it's such a big storm, there was going to be impacts in southwest Florida as well. But the difference between impacts and having the eye go there is much different. And for most of Sunday, Monday, and even into Tuesday, it was 150 miles away.
Yeah, so simple answer there. The storm moves, therefore we change our response, or we facilitate resources based off how the storm moves. Okay, that is essentially what Ron DeSantis is saying in the face of criticisms about the evacuation efforts of Lee County, where a lot of Floridians died during this storm, unfortunately. So let's check in on some of the actual recovery efforts that are going on down there in Florida, as Duke Energy is saying that, hey, we're wrapping up restoration already, as they have restored power to millions in just 3 days after the storm. So let's read about this. Days after Hurricane Ian hit Florida and the Carolinas, residents are struggling to navigate flooded roads and neighborhoods, and federal emergency management officials are conducting major search and rescue efforts amid the destruction. The recorded death toll from the storm surpassed 80 over the weekend and is expected to rise as flood waters recede and rescue teams are able to access new areas. Insurers could also face costs up to $57 billion from Hurricane Ian's damage in Florida and South Carolina, risk modeling firm Verisk said Monday. In Florida, which took the brunt of the hurricane, roughly 600,000 homes and businesses were without power as of Monday morning, down from a peak 2.6 million on Thursday, according to poweroutage.us. More than 1,600 people have been rescued across the state, according to the Florida Division of Emergency Management. Yeah, so the mainstream liberal media is never going to tell this story, right? They're not going to tell the story about how Ron DeSantis has been using the state's funds to prepare for these type of disasters, that recovery efforts are actually very swift. I mean, we're talking about 2 million homes now have power after, what, 3 or 4 days? Okay? You got 600,000 left. Duke Energy saying, yo, we're wrapping this up, right? We're almost done, okay? More than 1,600 people have been rescued. You're not going to hear about that. What you will hear about is what Ron DeSantis doesn't believe in climate change, or that Ron DeSantis is getting in the way of recovery efforts, or that Ron DeSantis said shoot and kill black people just because he said that looters will get shot, okay? Or, you know, all types of other crazy stuff that you hear instead of the positive things that is being done, okay, under his leadership. Again, it's actually amazing what the mainstream liberal media chooses to focus on, what they choose not to focus on, especially during a natural disaster, right? President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are traveling to Florida on Wednesday to assess the hurricane damage. Last week, the president said the destruction from Hurricane Ian is likely to be among the worst in the country's history. Quote, we're just beginning to see the scale of that destruction, the president said during a briefing on Friday. Quote, it's likely to rank among the worst in the nation's history. Yeah, so I wonder is the mainstream liberal media going to say that Biden is getting in the way of the recovery efforts, because Biden's security detail is going to be way more than Ron DeSantis, right? As president of the United States, again, he's going to have Secret Service basically blocking off miles, okay? So, again, the question is, will the mainstream liberal media say Biden's getting in the way? The same way they try to say that Ron DeSantis is getting in the way, right? Again, absolutely incredible stuff. Yeah, we'll see. I guarantee you they won't. But yeah, here's some of the pictures here of the recovery efforts. And there's also a clip that's going viral online of a black Democrat who basically is praising Ron DeSantis and his recovery efforts, going as far as to say he knows who he's voting for in this next upcoming election. Take a look.
That shit about DeSantis, but that gas is here in Arcadia.
Arcadia.
I don't know about the rest of y'all, but it's here in Arcadia. So y'all know who we vote for. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm voting for DeSantis. And I'm a Democrat. So y'all can call it what the y'all want to call it.
We got children out
Okay,
here.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Now, who am I more likely to believe? The mainstream liberal media, Joy Reid, or a guy that is actually on the ground, that lives there, a resident, right? He sounds like he's from Arcadia, which just so happens to be the exact same place that the liberal media is saying that, well, Ron DeSantis and his photo op there kept people from conducting recovery and relief efforts, right? But you got another guy on the ground who's a black Democrat saying that, hey, Ron DeSantis is doing what he got to do to get resources to us, right? He's sending us resources. We're getting the help that we're supposed to get. So again, it's amazing how that works. Guy goes as far as to say that, you know what? Again, although I'm a Democrat, a black Democrat, that I'm voting for Ron DeSantis, right? That is how good of a job he's doing as Florida governor. Again, it doesn't sound like he's focused on Ron DeSantis' alleged racism, right? Like Joy Reid, which again warms my heart. It warms my heart to see somebody who's a black Democrat say, you know what? I'm going to vote based on policy and action and how these things affect my life, versus just voting based off of who the Democrats tell me is racist and who's not racist, right? Again, it just warms my heart to see that, okay? So again, you know, I think it's a shame that the mainstream liberal media here, they're more focused on some of these minor, you know, issues, or, you know, trying to score political points against DeSantis, trying to find ways to criticize him, rather than looking at the overall picture for how prepared was Florida for this, right? Which they only can be so prepared, consider how it is a natural disaster. There's only so much you can do. But I think they were as prepared as they possibly could be. And recovery efforts are actually, it seems like, from what you're seeing on the ground, they're going well, right? However, the mainstream liberal media chooses to take these small jabs at Ron DeSantis to try to make him look bad, rather than to focus on the overall picture, which is that, you know, hey, things could have been a lot worse without the leadership of this governor. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.